Can I get another round of applause for monetizing music? What a topic. We're all going to leave here rich, I'm pretty sure. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kate Van Petten, and I work in marketing with Sonic Guild. It is a pleasure to see so many familiar faces in the audience. I just want to call out that we have guitar picks over here. What? You all need those. Guitar picks, stickers, postcards, whatever you need. Tell your friends about Sonic Guild. We need to grow our membership in order to keep offering these amazing services. So thank you for being here. Tell your friends about Sonic Guild. Now, it is time for us to talk about booking. And we have some wonderful people here to do that. But first, I want to do a little experiment. Can you raise your hand if you're a working musician? Okay, quite a few people. Keep your hand up if you're actively booking shows as a musician. Now, keep your hand raised if you book for a music venue in town regularly. Okay, 3, yeah. I just want to point out that ratio, how many musicians there are and how many bookers there are in the music industry. And then I want you to close your eyes and imagine a normal morning in their lives and what their email inboxes might look like. What are they like, friends? We'll do intros in a second, but any reactions?
Sort of like hell.
Sort of like hell. Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit today about how to make that hell a little bit more like heaven. But first, I want y'all to introduce yourselves. Tell us the snapshot of your elevator pitch, life story thing, where you work, who you are, pronouns.
Oh, I'll go first. Very smooth, by the way, Kate. Very, very well done. My name is Evan. I'm one of the talent buyers up at Neumos and Barboza in Capitol Hill, and I also do the booking for Capitol Hill Block Party and Day In, Day Out Festival, which happens right over here. Pronouns he, him.
I'm Brady. My pronouns are she, her. I am one of the talent buyers for Artist Home. We put on Chomp, Our Day, and Timber, obviously. Thank you. And we also work with the city and Sonic Guild on some other projects. I'm also the booker at Connor Byrne, which closed.
Save
but guess
Connor
what?
Byrne.
We just raised $25,000 so far, so we're coming back. That's pretty sick, all in one day. I'm also a music photographer. I do stuff for KXP. I'm also in a band called Alcapocalypse. I also used to be in a band called T-Cozies, who are also in $5 Cover. Thank you very much. Lasted for 10 years or so done a lot of shit.
Tons of shit. I'm Jason. Use he, him pronouns. I'm the artistic director at the Vera Project. I am a musician. I play lots of things, and I'm the co-chair of the Seattle Music Commission, which is an advocacy group for the city that tells everybody at the city what we should actually do for our creative economy. I don't know, some other things. I also booked the Georgetown Carnival, so where the clowns live. We'll be clowning around June 8th. That's it.
Wow. Mic drop, sunglasses on. All right, we're gonna get a little spicy today. Is that okay? Can we kick up the spice a little bit? All right, so these are 3 people who control 3 of the most beautiful rooms in town, I think. So why haven't you booked my band yet?
I have.
Dang it.
Me too.
Honestly, I don't remember if we have or not. I'm sorry.
Just kidding. So what do you look for when you're booking a band? So let's kind of map out the whole process, kind of starting from a cold email and move forward from there. But what are you looking for? Evan, kick us off.
Well, at Neumos and Barboza, if you're not familiar with those rooms, they're 210 capacity and 650 capacity, respectively. So, to give you a little, overview of it, we do a lot of national touring stuff at Neumos, but we also do the occasional local shows throughout the months. And Barboza is a lot more local things because it's a smaller room. Pretty straightforward, but honestly, the process looks usually the same, even from nationally touring stuff to local artists. Someone is reaching out to myself or the other people that work at Neumos. Hey, I want to put on a show, looking at these dates, looking at this room, and then it's kind of a back and forth of, okay, well, where have you played? What is your experience in town? What can we expect with the show? Not only like sonically and all that kind of stuff, but how many people are going to come? Because I think that's one of the biggest things I always try to hammer home here is, this is the music industry, the music business. There's a business side to this, and if you are not bringing people to our venue, we are not making money. You are not making money, and we are not making money. So that's always a huge part of it that you have to figure out beforehand. And then there's obviously the whole marketing side of things and ensuring that people actually come, and then the night of as well. So it's just a lot of emailing. And back to your point about why all of our inboxes are so full. So the original question is, what do we look for? I mean, for myself at least, it's how easy you are to work with, what's your experience in town, and what is the likelihood this show is going to be successful. Not only, again, from just an experience standpoint of being easy to work with, but again, is anyone going to come? Or is money going to be made at the bar? Are tickets going to be sold? All that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Cool. That's totally great. Great job. For me, very similar. I love getting emails where people really are honest about how much draw they have. We don't love it when you blow smoke up our asses and you say you can bring, 200 people out on a Tuesday. Obviously, a lot of people I go and double check, and I'm like, I don't think from your social media that's super realistic, but I do take chances all the time on bands who are up and coming. The sound, the music is killer. I'm like, let's try it. Let's see how it goes. In a space like Connor Byrne, it's a 150 cap venue. That's a place where you can try stuff out. You can be starting your sound. You can be growing your audience. When you're trying to get to a bigger room, you don't want to try and hop to a new spot before you're ready. And I think that's super important. So I'm always looking out for great videos, even just something a live video that your friend took off their phone. That's super helpful. Yeah, I had other thoughts, but I forgot what they were. You can go.
Okay. I truly believe in right band for right room. Vera Project is historically booked a lot of punk-y kind of stuff or conscious hip-hop or that kind of thing. So that, and then the other space that we book that we have is called the Black Lodge. It's a warehouse space that we took over. I had been a member for a long time, but we kind of decided to take it during the pandemic so we could make sure that it stayed. That's all just punk and hardcore and like death metal. But that's what works in the rooms. So know what room you're going into. Like look at some of the events and just know that if it's all reggae and you're a death metal band, it's just not going to work. So, but I do believe in that. I think that that's a really important part. But then the second part of it, there's two things that I don't want to see in an email is a 55-year-old man saying he wants to expand his all ages audience. Doesn't sound good at a venue full of kids. And then just one of my red flags. I'm like, we'll keep you at the 21 and up. And then the second part is like, I'm looking for folks that want to be a part of our community as a whole. So some of that investment, in, especially locals, but we do book a lot of, like everybody else, we book a lot of touring acts. That's where we start, people reaching out, booking agents and bands and stuff like that first. And then obviously pairing locals that we think would be really good and can build community with that, so.
On that topic, if I'm a local band and I want to open up for one of these national acts coming through, how does that process work? How am I being kept in mind by these bookers to get that slot?
I've done it before. You just email them. Yeah. You just try. All they can say is no. So I got to open for Ty Segall once, and I just asked. So
the audacity.
The audacity.
Mm-hmm. I opened for Led Zeppelin once, and I just asked. That was it. Real answer.
I do feel like, at least in my position, it is happening less and less and less that local artists are given the opportunity to open for the larger things. And the reality is that the touring band, whether it's their own decision or their booking agent's decision or their management's decision, is more likely to give that opportunity to one of the smaller bands that they rep from the booking agent standpoint or the manager standpoint, because they know how valuable that opportunity is these days. You know, not to talk back on the monetizing panel that we heard earlier, but this is the way a lot of artists are making the majority of their money now, is playing live. So getting the exposure on those tours, especially the tours that are selling out rooms, is super, super key for those folks. So the opportunities for local artists has become less, in my experience, in the last 10 years. However, the folks that I've been able to give that opportunity to, the two things that I would recommend that they were in the position, they put themselves in the position to be, is that they were very, very easy to work with, and they had done a successful show with me prior. That was it. Like, when that opportunity comes, because it's usually hey, the show's in 3 days, we don't have we don't have support, find whoever you can. Those are the people that I think of, so. Or it's folks who have reached out. Because sometimes there are smaller shows that need support. It's just like, hey, the support fell off, who do you got? I just, look in my inbox, the artist's name, and so-and-so, the local band reached out, and they're super into it. It's just that simple. So
I'll do a thing where basically if I like something or I think it fits the room, I'll put it in a little folder, and say book this 2024 or whatever, and kind of just keep in mind. Sometimes I won't get back to you, so sorry, but I am thinking of the people that I think would be good in that room. But Evan's right. A booking agency might sit on their hands for until the week of the show and be like, okay, you can just book whoever you want. We didn't figure out who we were going to bring on this tour. And I was like, you didn't figure out the week before. That's a whole separate thing. But the point being is, if we reach out to you last minute, it's not because we didn't want to book you a month before. It's just that our hands are tied, so.
So just to back it up a little bit, these folks do receive a lot of emails. So can we talk a little bit about crafting a perfect email for y'all? And just because they don't respond to you doesn't mean that they didn't read your email. A little trick you can do is get a trackable link so that you know if they open that link. Ooh, sneaky. People are doing this. Wow. People are doing this to see, because just because they don't respond, they don't have time to respond to everyone. But you can track if they've seen something. But for you guys, can you give some examples of perfect emails you've received, or examples of things you can do well while crafting an email?
Sure. Keep it simple. Let us just know who you are, where you're from. The draw thing is nice if you're honest about it.
And what is draw for the folks who don't understand maybe what that
draw is how many people you can actually bring to a show, how confident you feel. For the younger folks in the room, it's probably your grandmother, your grandfather, your two best friends, but count them. That's 4 people. So, but otherwise, I just want a Bandcamp or something, or a Spotify or whatever. I just want to hear it, because when I'm doing it, I'm in Tron mode in my little Tron vehicle, concentrating, and I just take in 30 seconds and I go, I get it, and then I move on to the next thing.
Yeah, we do really listen to every single thing that is sent to us. I don't love all of it, but there's a lot of really good stuff that I get in my inbox all the time. And like Jason said, I do tend to keep it to the side and think about it for later, for when someone's coming through, oh, that's gonna match up perfectly. Bandcamp is great. Another thing I really love is when people come to me with a bill. Not every booker works this way, but sometimes it's super helpful if you're like, hey, we got these 3 killer bands. We think we can bring about this many people. Here are some dates that would work for us. Or do you have anything available on a Thursday in May? That's killer for me. I love it, because then it's hey, this is already pretty much done. How about this amount for your tickets? Let's do this. And I love that. That's my favorite.
Yep, just keep it super efficient. Keep in mind if you're sending an email with multiple paragraphs, I'm probably going to open it and just automatically not want to read it. So, yeah, being super concise and just giving me the who, what, where, and the biggest thing for me is also, again, how many people are going to come to the show. So, just making it as simple as possible.
Is the EPK dead?
I don't look at them at all.
I look at them sometimes. I like them. I don't know. I feel like it maybe changed forms, but I do find the information in it helpful. Just easy links to what you are doing is awesome. Also, for the love of God, put your shows somewhere in a list. Don't just put them in your reels. Don't just put them in your Instagram posts. Put them A lot of people put them on Instagram, like, boom, 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 here's my next 3 shows. Because if I'm going out and I'm wanting to book you for something, and I can't find when you're going to play next, and I'm like, how about the 26th? And you're like, that's great, but we already have a show that night. Well, to me, I'm like, you should tell somebody, because I can't see it. So that's why I do like EPKs, and I like websites when people have them updated and they have that information. It's very helpful.
To get into some vocab, can you tell us what a radius clause is, or what you mean when you say you're looking for someone else's show dates?
Oh, yeah. I don't love when anybody in town is playing within 2 weeks of another show. That's really hard for us as venues to get enough people to come out. It's hard for you. You got all these people to come out to your show 2 weeks ago, and you're expecting the same batch of people to come to another show. Guess what you could do? You could go to Tacoma. You could go to Everett. You could play somewhere else. That's how you grow your fan base also at the same time. But yeah, anything outside of that is pretty obnoxious. But festivals also may ask you, like during the summertime, like, hey, we'd really appreciate it if you not play any free festivals during the month of our festival or something of that nature. There's not technically radius clauses really as much anymore legally. But we do appreciate it if you have a conversation with us about what your plans are around big festivals, at least, for sure.
This is festival guys.
Yeah, I mean, a radius clause is, when you agree not to play within a certain number of weeks, right? And I think it comes with a lot of negative connotations. Like, it's a blackout clause. You're not able to play shows, make money for 2 months before a festival date and 45 days afterwards. And that's the thing, like, Coachella is infamous for that, right? The majority of Coachella artists aren't allowed to play, a Los Angeles show for months before and months after the festival. And, it has a negative connotation in that way. Well, that's for Beyonce and things like that. On the smaller local side of things, we don't enforce it at Neumos and Barboza, but also if your show sucks because you played another show 4 days ago, I'm not going to book you again. So it kind of goes hand in hand in that way. When it comes to block party and day in, day out, it's like, if you're a local artist, I'm not going to stop you from making money in the summer. That's ridiculous. It's absurd. No one is getting paid enough money to expect that. However, for me, it's a prioritization. If you're headlining the Crocodile 2 days before you're playing Block Party, you're probably going to be talking about the Crocodile a bunch. It's a very big show for you. It's a huge venue. So I just want to make sure that you are treating the opportunity of playing my festival or our festival with prioritization. So I'm not trying to stop anybody from making money, but it's, we should both want this to go well for us. So
the last panel talked about making friends and building lasting relationships. Part of that is finding like a mutual respect for that fact that someone is putting money out and in a lot of ways to do the show. So it's like, just give it a couple weeks here, and then that should kind of help stretch some of the draw out. So, yeah.
So you said 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after, but I think this is harder news for some local artists to hear than you think, because you think you want to make a living in music, you want to be playing out as often as you can to increase the amount of money you're making, right? But how, for a new emerging local up-and-coming artist, how often would you recommend in like an average year that they headline a show?
I don't think there's some exact number here. I think my bigger pieces here is I'm not a local artist, but if I was, I would want to make sure that every single show I play has the shot of selling out. Because I think those are the two most important words, at least from the venue, from like the talent buyer's perspective. I will never forget, there was a kid named Ryan Caraveo, who was a local Seattle artist, who sold out the Crocodile Back Bar, which at the time, pre-COVID, I don't even know if it held 70 people, whatever. But I heard that he sold that room out, and immediately I was like, I want to do a show with him. 2 weekends ago, we did 2 nights at Neumos that sold out. And it's one of those things that's always stayed with me. And it's not that Ryan sold out every single show that he's ever played, but I'd like to think that every single one that he played in town had the chance of it because he made sure it was a priority. And instead of playing way too much, he gave himself the space. And I think in the long run, it's hard to swallow that pill, but in the long run, it's going to benefit you if you're trying to make money, to not play every 2 weeks, right?
And speaking of that, going back to the Everett, Tacoma, Olympia, everything, go play other places in Washington. It's fun. You get to play to people that you don't know potentially, and there's a lot of venues that are trying to do their thing in Bellingham, and there's a lot of great venues, not just in Seattle. So, give some time and some space for Seattle.
It's also how you can meet other great bands from other cities and make connections to have a killer tour the next time you want to go on tour, or you already played there. People in that town really like you. You're going to sell a bunch of tickets just because you've been back there a bunch in the last 6 months. So that's always important to keep in mind if you like to tour.
So what recommendations do you have for artists booking tours in other cities to think of when they're reaching out to bookers in other cities that they don't necessarily know, or rooms that they're not as familiar with?
Yeah, I like to, whenever I was booking a tour, you also do your research on the bands that are doing well in that town. Reach out to them if there's somebody that you think you're going to fit really well on a bill with. That's a killer way to meet up, ask them, hey, would you be able to get us a show? Even if it's a house party, honestly, it's going to help you on your way on your tour. Connections are super important, and to make them all across wherever you're trying to go.
Yeah, I mean, my whole life has been in punk and hardcore, so all it is just basically people trading shows with each other at houses, basements, warehouses, all that kind of stuff. So that's just built into the culture that I've existed in. But essentially, that same framework works for going out and meeting new bands from different towns and trading shows and stuff. It doesn't have to just live in punk and hardcore, but it is something that is a very DIY ethos to build community there. And because also, isn't it fun to go to a city where you actually know people that you can hang out with and go get pad thai with? And I wouldn't say get pad thai in Salt Lake City. It's not a good place to get it there. But there are friends there, and it makes it better.
This is everything you need to know about booking for local musicians. Let's talk a little bit. We're going to power through some vocab, all right? We're just going to rapid fire if you want to take it. What's an advance?
What we send to you to tell you where you're going to load in, how you're going to get paid, what time you need to be there. Are you getting drink tickets? I need your stage plot, all that kind of thing. Did you send that yet? That's what it is.
What's a stage plot for those who don't know?
Oh, stage plot. It's this, like right now, I would be like 4 chairs. Here's the front of the stage. But you do that with your amps and where your drums live, and also how many inputs you have. Like, say you have a keyboard. Do you need it DI'd, which means direct input? Okay, going right into the PA. Or are you going to play through an amp also? Also tell people how many vocal mics you have. Do you have a vocal pedal on your vocal mic? That's a good thing to tell a sound person. Basically anything the sound person would want to know that they won't know psychically just looking at you. So, yeah, stage plot.
Let's just keep having Brady answer all these. I'm having
Love
fun
it.
with it.
Lightning round with Brady.
Shit.
What's a room fee?
Oh.
I mean, a room fee, I guess, a room fee makes it sound like you're paying for it. Hopefully, there are not many instances where you are paying a venue to play, because that's, in my opinion at least, it's a little icky.
Yes.
But room fee, I think a better, maybe like room expenses or the house nut is just like, here's what it costs to put on this show. This is what I have to pay the sound tech. This is what I have to pay the door person. Just like that basic thing. Yeah.
What's a settlement sheet?
Settlement sheet. So you got your house costs, right? And it'll be like, so for example, at Connor Burn, we take the first $150 out of the door to cover our house costs. And then the band split the rest. Beforehand, we decide how that split happens. For us, the headliner decides the split. So our default is even. So it would be like, everybody gets a third after that cost comes out. And then how much you get at the end of the night. I think that stuff's really important to know ahead of time before you play anywhere, because if there is a real rental cost, you don't want to have to owe the venue any money because nobody came, which is not usually a thing in this town anymore, or most towns. But there are some sneaky sneaks around, so watch out.
What's a co-promotion?
It's when 2 people love each other very much. They want to co-promote together. So Sonic Guild and KXP present this. That's what you see on flyers.
And why does that matter? What does that do for a show?
Well, if we're talking algorithms and statistics, then it just means you have two different organizations that are able to push this show for you on their social media and da-da-da-da. Yeah.
Are you more likely to book a band with a co-promotion with the backing of some orgs like that?
Oh, yeah. This is nice
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. Do you hear that, people? Oh, yeah. Evan, what's a challenge?
A challenge is, well, I guess, can I take a step back? And
Yes,
so
step back.
Generally, most venues, how they operate how they manage their calendars is, if you reached out to me, so-and-so, you want to play on April 12th, well, you probably aren't the only person that reached out about April 12th. So we have a hold system, which is kind of like calling dibs on a date. If you're the first person that reached out about April 12th, in theory, you are the first hold. It doesn't always happen that way, and then anyone else who reaches out about it kind of gets in line, right? So then if you're the fourth person that reached out about the date, you got your lineup, you're ready to go, you're ready to confirm the show and lock it in, then you were to challenge the people ahead of you, and everyone ahead of you, those 3 holds are given a 24 to 48 hours usually is how I operate, to either confirm the date or they drop it. So it's not just like hey, we've been talking about April 12th, I'm ready to do it, now the date's mine. It's like, no, there's some steps to go through, so.
So once an artist has booked a show, what are some things they can do to make your life easier?
Promote.
Make a flyer.
Yeah, just put all their efforts in to ensure that the show does, the best as possible. So yeah, whether it's coming up with a poster or just really, pushing hard on social media, inviting folks. I mean, it's always nice to see tickets be sold in advance. We always set up advance links for shows at Neumos and Barboza, but, I've also seen shows sell 2 tickets in advance and then 120 people show up. So I guess just come through and making sure the show actually does well.
And promote it well in advance. And be smart about how you're doing your promotions if you have several shows coming up. Push this one harder this 2 weeks before that show is about to happen. But still remember to plug the other one if you've got another one coming down the line, because pre-promotion is super important. It does not help us when you promote the day of the show. That happens, and I don't love it. Yeah. So we're going to promote on our end, but when you promote to your crowd and your people, the venue is promoting all the time to the same people, and people might not be paying as much attention. So just keep that in mind, that going out there and doing your part is also important.
And I think it's super helpful on that note you can ask the venue, like, hey, what can we do to promote the show? Like, we're putting the show on together, and we have an entire marketing team at Neumos and Barboza. It's like if you came to me and you were like, "Hey, what can y'all do? What are you able to do?" I'm already thinking like, "Okay, you're being proactive. You're asking questions here, and we've got a lot of people that would be willing to help you out." So I think just having a collaborative thing, and then I've really randomly noticed a lot of locals have success with like giveaways or just very strategic marketing efforts. Like there's this band Them. West Seattle band, and I'm not saying this, but they give away AirPod Pros at every show that they do, and it's like you have to, there's a whole contest to it though. You have to sign up in advance, and you have to tag your friends, and so it's like they're garnering their community to help them do that. On the flip side of that, if you don't have money for AirPod Pros, there's a local artist Tinsley who's playing Block Party, and she's having her fans or her friends submit a design for what her outfit will look like at her set. So it's like one of those things that doesn't really cost a ton of money and was quirky and gets people engaged. And, in the end, they're all talking about her set at this festival. So it's helping in turn. But now we're going on tangent.
I'm loving the creative examples. Do you two have any good creative examples of marketing strategies from local musicians?
There's no surprise that when you do a covers night for Halloween, everybody that you haven't seen for the rest of the year at your shows comes to your shows because it's fun. And so you need to make sure that people are coming to see something fun, right? People want to be entertained. It's like, as much as it's like what Tomo's saying, for us, or for musicians, like a thing that comes from inside out, it's like people want to go to things and like have fun, I mean, it's like, unless they're seeing like, a band they want to be bummed out, then that's fine too. Like I had a great time seeing Codeine once at the Sunset back in the day, and it was the slowest, boringest set, and I loved it, and it was depressing. But the point being, do something like they're saying, just like find some way to like make people be like, if I go to this tonight, I'm gonna have a good time. You know, I mean that's just, you know, you go see Spider-Man, you know you're gonna have a good time. So let's try that. You know.
Yeah, make it an event. Make it something people want to come out to. Maybe you are like, hey, the band is wearing this weird costume. We're all going to be Corey Feldman's various versions of him. I did that one time. I don't remember why. You know, I also saw somebody do a specific photo shoot just for this one show, and they got all the singers of those bands together. They created a reel. That was also really rad. It's just kind of a different marketing thing. Or get your friend to make a special poster for the show. It's only available at the show. There's tons of ideas, and you probably have better ones than I do.
Oh, my one. It didn't happen with us, but I think it's a very famous story. Nardwar, if you're familiar with Nardwar, the interviewer, he apparently with his band, if you came to one show, he would hand out pennies. And at everyone in the crowd got a penny. And then you come to the next show, he'll trade it in for a nickel. You know, and you'd keep doing that, and then a dime, a quarter. You know, it's one of those things that's very silly, but it's might have worked. You know, and it could work. So thinking outside of the box like that.
All right, taking a little turn. How do I find the right room for my music? So we talk about, you know, right artist, right room. How do you go about if you're a new artist and you don't necessarily know what your draw is, or you don't know where you fit in? What should be those considerations when looking for the right room?
I think the easiest thing is just go to the website. And see what else is being booked. You know, I have a little booking agency on the side too, and when I'm looking for a new room in a town that I think one of the bands I'm booking would be suited for, if I'm not familiar with it, I go and see what else is being booked. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like kind of this style of genre or whatever. So there's a good, easy way to do that, and it won't take you very long to just look at a list of a calendar and be like, oh, what normally goes on here, you know. So.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to say that is a very smart idea, great thing to do. Also, just going out to different venues and trying shows. If your friend invites you to a show, go. Like, why not? You might see a band that you like that you want to play a show with. But that is a huge way to kind of figure out if your band's going to vibe with the room. Also, if the people there seem nice and you want to work with them and you want to be there for a night.
What is the ideal world for advances? What should they look like? How early should I get them? And should I pester you about getting mine?
You should definitely be getting it at least the week of the show. I like to send it as soon as I've booked it, as soon as we're on sale and the ticket link is out, I send the advance, because then you probably will have less questions for me and I can keep doing other things. That's how I work. But yeah, I think, 2 weeks out, probably good if you haven't heard from them in a while and you're getting stressed and worried. Because you need to know what time you need to get there, and you need to get all your bandmates on time, and sometimes that's like herding cats. We all know, I think.
When I'm on tour, I get this done like three weeks to a month before. So, because they need to know what kind of peanut butter cups I want in the green room, what size. I don't want miniatures. Yeah. But a week of more reasonably for a local show, you probably will see it a week of, and it's okay to reach out if you haven't heard from the folks. Everybody's pretty busy when we do a lot of shows and stuff, so it's not because we didn't think about you. It's more just kind of like, okay, we're just working down the list right now. So yeah.
Yeah, and if there's like a super time sensitive thing, like even if it's, hey, I have to work until 6 o'clock that day, can you at least answer me that? Or if you have a specific question, I think that's always good. That's a fine thing to, early on. But
when you book a local act for a touring act, how many tickets do you expect them to sell, or what's that ratio?
Dude, it's a wonderful question that I feel like there's not like unfortunately, it's kind of a case-by-case thing, because to pull the curtain back, there are oftentimes a show is bombing at Neumos, and they say, well, what local act can we get on there to sell tickets? And my response is always like, well, if I wanted to book a show with the local artist to sell tickets, I would have just done that. Like, I booked this show with you because I thought we were going to sell tickets. So, it's an unfair thing to put on a local, especially because a lot of these touring artists, it's like tickets $25 to $30. I mean, that's what it has to be these days. So it's like, I can't really expect you and your fan base, which is probably your friends or people that are used to spending $12 to $15, to spend $28 to come see, you play for 30 minutes. So it's a case-by-case thing. I think, again, it comes back to prioritization. Like, whether it's a show that's bombing or a show that that's sold out, you should be probably screaming it from the rooftops that you're playing at a venue you're stoked to play at. So
yeah, put your 100% into it. Oftentimes with our smaller room at Vera, with the gallery space where we will book a lot more locals and smaller bands and stuff, we will sort of kind of like tailor make it to rely on making sure that some of the locals can bring a little bit. But it's only because there's this great band that probably can only bring 20 people, but that are a touring band, but we want to make sure that people see them. So if we're like, hey, everybody should promote, it's because it's more of a community benefit thing. We want you to meet these people because they're also in the same place where they're like, well, this is our first tour or anything like that, So it really is case by case basis. But yeah, just do your best to promote your shows, show that you can bring folks out, And again, yeah, everything that Evan said.
How do you get your foot in the door for festivals, Evan?
Well, for me, you could probably look at this year's Block Party lineup, and where it starts to be all local artists, you could probably look back the last 6 months, and almost every single one of them has done a Barboza show for us, or over the last year or so. I mean, it's just the easiest way for me to kind of be like, it's not even that you have to sell a certain number of tickets to get it. There's no requirement. I don't even know if we have a submission form. It's just like, get in with us, start working with us, prove that this is like a great, easy experience. And then, the reality too with festival slots for locals is something like Block Party. There's like 100+ people. Well, in Seattle, thankfully, there's thousands of local bands, and everyone is deserving of these slots. So it's kind of like, if it doesn't happen this year, it'll probably happen next year, and you just have to stay consistent and persistent. So, there's not some formula to it, though, for me.
Brady, what about you?
Yeah, for Timber, Artist Home, every year we put out a submission form, and that when you're entering your information on that form, you're applying to everything that we do. So that's how we hear about everybody. We listen to everything on there. We watch all the videos. We really get a feel for how all of the artists, what you're doing in the community, where you're playing. Basically, just seeing a performance can decide if we want to take a chance and put you on the festival. It's really huge. We did just close our form for this year, but we'll put it out again, I think, at the end of November. But otherwise, just putting on great shows, if you get to a point where you're selling a venue out, people notice. Also, the bookers, we talk to each other all the time. Hey, did you hear about this killer band I just saw last week? No, I didn't. And doing the best job at being a musician, playing a killer show, like that's how this stuff happens. Yeah.
You got anything for us, Jason?
Well, at the carnival, it's clowns and carnies only. So get your makeup on or don't come down.
Amazing. Do I have control of my show time? Can it be later? Can it be earlier? How does this work?
I think you mutually agree with the promoter, right? The us talent buyers. But I mean, generally, yeah, on Monday we'll be like, sure, 6 o'clock doors. That makes a lot of sense because people want to get home. That's me, at least, yeah.
Yeah, that's totally it. And that's something we've seen. I think everybody's seen that post-COVID. It's like we all got used to not doing anything at all, let alone doing anything past 10 p.m. So yeah, I've seen shows like them kind of fall off because they run too late. So if that's something that you're confident is going to make the show do better, then communicate that to the venue, and it's totally something they'd be willing to do. So,
some venues will have double book nights, like the Madame Lou's is a good example of this. They'll have earlier shows because they'll have DJ nights or different focus nights later. So sometimes there's booking conflicts, but yeah, if not, pretty open. Ooh, let's hear some guest list etiquette.
check your advance. It'll usually say how many guests per band member you get. But also, if you want to bring a photographer in or a videographer, or you have somebody from the press coming, just ask. I put people on there all the time. It's great for you. It's great for the venue. If we get any press, I'm down. So that's where I'm at with that. Also, unless you're going to be a really big touring act, you're probably not going to be able to ask for 20 guest list spots besides what we have already given you. Just FYI, depending on the room. But
Can I just put all my friends on the guest list?
No. Just know the place that you're playing. I mean, as far as etiquette is concerned, there's a spot that me and the crew will book shows at this billiards hall called Billiards Huang, and there just doesn't need to be a guest list for that. We're putting money back into a pho restaurant, So it's it's either going to the touring band or it's going to the pho restaurant, and so just kind of know your etiquette. But if it's a bigger space, I mean, and the show's doing well, I don't know, But remember, this room fee thing. The room fee thing is, and I think people forget about the people that outside of us talent buyer folks that really make this stuff work is the production team. And the production team needs to get paid, and part of that is a business, and that means that folks need to be able to make a living doing that. And so, let's be mindful of that, because it's we're all in this, but also remember these folks that are getting you on stage and making you sound good and also checking you in and get everything situated for you are a huge part of making that happen in the first place. So, yeah.